Hello and welcome to yet another session of
Ask the Breeder.
Now, just to make it a little more entertaining, in case you get bored with my answers to your questions, Sherlock is right behind me there. He's been napping for a little while, and I just let him out in the yard, did his business there, and he should hopefully spend a little time playing with his toys. So you can always watch him if my answers aren't interesting enough. Anyway, we've got some great questions sent in by some of our regular YouTube viewers, and also from some folks that we may not have heard from before. My first question comes from Dr. Berkowitz. Hey Doc, how's it going? Dr. Berkowitz says, that was Apple crash landing on the deck, in case you heard the noise. I don't know why she was in such a hurry. I guess she's checking up on her little boy. Anyway, Dr. Berkowitz says, my 4.5-month-old puppy is pooping in the crate and in the house. What can I do? Well, I have to kind of separate that into two separate questions. As far as pooping in the house is concerned, that I think stems from a lack of being completely thorough and consistent in crate training. I believe crate training is the best way to get a dog house trained. And if you don't know about crate training, I'll put a little link up here to my video, which is one of my most watched videos, about how to actually use crate training to housebreak a dog. Theoretically, when you take a puppy home, it's going to be probably 2.5 months old or so. At that point, that puppy has very, very little freedom. The puppy will be in the crate to sleep, will go out when he wakes up to do his business in the yard, and when he comes in, you can start in the beginning with giving him about 15 minutes, no more than that, of supervised playtime. The word supervised is key. You have to be aware of every single thing he's doing, every place he is, and be able to step right in if he starts to make a mistake and decide that it's okay to poop in the house. By the time the puppy is at your puppy's age, Doc, at 4.5 months, you may be up to 2 or 3 hours at a time of supervised playtime. Again, supervised. If you follow my recommended procedures, I'm not a vet, but I've got a lot of experience with bringing up puppies, and follow it consistently and very gradually extend that supervised playtime, by the time the puppy is maybe 6 months old, they will probably be able to stay with you during the waking hours that you are around the house. But you must be able to supervise. So again, if you have something else to do and you can't supervise the puppy, utilize the crate. It's for the dog's own safety. That should hopefully end the pooping in the house, because you don't give the dog a chance to make a mistake. As far as the crate's concerned, check the size of the crate. We use crates that are no bigger than 13 inches by 22 inches. Any bigger than that, you're going to have too much space in the crate. And if it's a young puppy, you may want to even decrease that space. You can put a cardboard box in there or something to limit the space. So maybe it's 13 by 15 or whatever. I know it sounds very small, but if it's too big, the puppy is going to feel very free to go up to the front of the crate, poop, and then go back to the rear of the crate and sleep, and no problem. Instead, you want the puppy to alert you by crying or barking or whatever it does to tell you it's time that I have to go out. So try those things, see how it works. Next question comes from Tracy. Tracy wants to know if we have pet insurance. The short answer is no. The reason we don't have pet insurance is because we have multiple dogs. And To pay a premium on one dog, it's not too big an expense. To pay a premium on 4 dogs like they have now, 10 to 12 dogs like I have on occasion had in the home before, could be prohibitive. So instead we self-insure. What I mean by self-insured is that when we have income related to the dogs, which mainly comes from selling puppies that we decide not to keep, and they get placed in fine homes, and that money goes into a dedicated bank account, and then when we have a dog-related expense, the money comes out of that account until it gets down to 0, which it does, and then we have to pay the money anyway. But I find that that's a much more efficient way of dealing with it rather than trying to pay the premiums. But there are some good plans. As a matter of fact, Tracy, I believe, has a good plan. She said that she got a 90% coverage on surgery, seizure medications, and even an EKG was covered. So that sounds like a good plan. As far as I'm concerned, if I were to buy health insurance for my dogs, I would look to see what percent coverage I would get. Is it going to be 70%? Is it going to be 90%? Is it going to be 50%? Are there any deductibles? Are there annual limits? You get to a certain point, and then that's the maximum that you can get from that insurance plan. What does it cover? Does it cover vaccines, which you would probably need regularly? Does it cover dental work, which if you don't brush your dog's teeth every night, you're probably going to need dental work, which can be quite expensive because the anesthesia is required. You know, you can't tell a dog open wide and don't swallow. It just doesn't work. So dental, I think, should be covered. And then pre-existing conditions. There are insurance plans for dogs that cover pre-existing conditions if they're curable pre-existing conditions. And what do they consider to be a pre-existing condition? I once heard a story that a person couldn't get health insurance that covered the Cavalier's heart problem that developed later in life because, oh, it's a Cavalier, it's going to have a heart problem. That's a pre-existing condition. That's nonsense, I'm sorry. So check those things, and I think pet insurance is a good idea, even though I don't have it. Our next question comes from Kentucky. I think that's Kentucky the person, not the state. Maybe the state is asking us a question. Kentucky wants to know, how do we decide when to retire a dog from breeding? Well, I'm a member of the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel Club USA, which is a big national breed club, and we have a code of ethics. Our code of ethics is for the protection of the breed, and therefore there are some restrictions. That code of ethics states that we cannot breed a Cavalier past its 8th birthday, and there's a maximum of 6 litters lifetime. Now, in my case, in reality, that never enters into the picture. I don't like to just breed my dogs over and over and over again. I like to enjoy them in other ways. I also like to show them. If you're breeding a dog and it's having litters constantly, she's not going to be able to be shown. So, generally speaking, in most cases, I will have a maximum of 2 to 3 litters in a dog's lifetime. In fact, with Apple, I might very well decide that we had a problem with the lactation this time, and maybe we don't want to breed her at all again. Just because she had the problem doesn't mean she will again, but it is something that we want to consider. But the way we decide is a bunch of things. First of all, what's the age of the dog? Second, how many litters has this dog had in the past? Third, have there been problems in the past that we have to take into account that might recur? Fourth, has the dog produced puppies naturally, or have we had to have C-sections? And finally, do we want to get that dog into the show ring, and maybe we don't want to keep breeding it? So retiring a dog from breeding is a multifaceted question. That means there's a lot of different things we consider. Poco asks, how do we choose our puppies' names? Well, keep in mind, if you get a puppy, you can call that puppy whatever you want. You can call him late for dinner, or you can call him Sherlock. Sherlock? Hi, Sherlock. Yes, I know, and you are very cute. Come here. Good boy. Oh, what a good boy you are. Yes. But some of our names, I think, are kind of unique, and you might wonder how we arrive at them. Well, we have our own process, because as breeders, we have a responsibility to give the puppy an official registered name. Now, that official registered name stays with them for life. That, along with their registration number, serves as a permanent identifier of the dog. But we don't use that official registered name because it's long, and that would be silly. You know, when I was called by my first name, middle name, and last name by my mother, I knew I was in trouble. You know, so normally she would just use my first name. So we have to have a short name for the dog, which we call a call name. So here's the way we like to do it. The first thing is we like to come up with a theme for the litter. To use an example, in fact, let's use Tig, recently departed. We miss her a lot, as an example. Tig was born in the midst of a big presidential election campaign. And every time you turned on the television, there were political ads for president constantly. So we got used to seeing political commercials. We decided that the presidential campaign would serve as the theme for our litter. So the next step was to come up with an official registered name for each puppy. Each puppy had a name that was related to presidential campaign. In Tag's case, her official registered name is Blackfire, which, since that's our registered kennel affix, that's always at the beginning. Blackfire, I approve this message. I approve this message is something that you would hear constantly during a campaign. But of course, I'm not going to say, hey, Blackfire, I approve this message, come here right now. That's not going to work. That's like me being called by all three names. So we need a call name. Well, that phrase was used as a tagline in all the commercials. It's required, I believe, by law. So we're thinking, well, it's a tagline, so we'll call her Tag, and that stuck. And that's what we called her. The reason I like to do this is because I can work backwards. You might have seen a video a little while ago about a dog named Zen, black and tan boy, who joined us for a visit because his family was going away on vacation, and we were minding him while they were gone. And you know, I would have to very often look up, you know, ooh, Zen, who is that? But I didn't have to, because when I heard Zen, I knew that Zen was his call name because his registered name was Blackfire Moment of Zen. And then I'm thinking, oh, Blackfire Moment of Zen. Moment of Zen is a phrase that was used on a show that I always liked a lot, The Daily Show. So I knew that Zen came from the litter that was named after various aspects of The Daily Show. So I knew who he was related to. It was very easy to remember who the parents were and all that. So that's really why we do it the way we do it. Finally, Lexi says, what should I look for when I am choosing a puppy? As far as I'm concerned, there are three major factors when you are looking for a puppy as a pet. And there's a specific order. Number one, meaning that it's the most important, is the health. If a puppy doesn't come from a healthy breeding pair, then you're risking an awful lot. There are certain diseases that are common to the Cavalier breed, as there are diseases common to every single dog breed there is. The ones we are concerned about are heart disease, eye diseases, there's a few, patella luxation. Patella is the kneecap, and when the kneecap slips out of place, that means that it's luxating, and hip dysplasia. Every dog that's bred, every parent of a puppy, should be tested by specialists within a year of the breeding date for problems in those 4 areas. It's not a guarantee, but if both parents have been cleared by specialists of those 4 problems, you have minimized the chance that your puppy will have any of those problems. Second factor is temperament. A good pet has to fulfill its purpose. Cavalier's purpose are to be good companion dogs, so you want them to be a good companion. They should have a proper Cavalier temperament. You can judge that by visiting the puppies with the breeder when it's time to see if you can make a selection that the breeder would be able to go along with for a puppy for yourself. My favorite saying is, you don't choose the puppy chooses you. So if you go to the breeder's home and you see a litter of puppies and you walk up to them or go into the pen with them or whatever, the one that comes up to you and is friendly to you, chances are that's the one that's going to have the good temperament that you're looking for. The third factor is conformation, meaning how closely does that dog conform to the Cavalier breed standard? Does it look like a Cavalier? Does it have a nice Cavalier head? Does it have the eyes that we're looking for in a Cavalier? Does it have the nice compact body that a Cavalier would have? And so on. Our breed standard, by the way, is available online. You can read it. There's a lot of stuff in there. But you should be somewhat familiar with what's expected in a Cavalier. Now, looks are not nearly as important to someone who is not going to be showing their dog or breeding their dog as it is to someone who does those things. But you still don't want to walk down the street and have somebody look at the dog and say, is that a Cavalier? You want them to say, oh, it's a Cavalier, what a nice looking dog. If you got those 3 slots filled, you're doing well choosing a puppy. Now, of course, you have to start with a good breeder. That's number 1. And I have a video on how to choose a good breeder. I will put a link to that video up here. Well, little Sherlock just got off his wobble board again. Hi, little fella. Let me have him say goodbye. Well, little Sherlock, say goodbye to everybody.
Bye!
Thank you, my little boy. You're so good. If you have any questions that you would like answered, you can put them in my comments section on the YouTube channel, and I might be able to answer them in a future edition of Ask the Breeder. Thank you.